So, namaste and welcome to Satsang this evening here in the UK. So, the Satsang is for the experiential realization of who we really are. So, there's only one being that exists, and that one being is formless in its essential nature. It is pure intelligence before form, and that one being is manifesting itself, experiencing itself as all of these forms, both human beings, of course, animals, plants, and insentient objects. And satsang is really for the experience of seeing who we are and then coming to live as that in a permanent way so that um, the realization can become a very lived and constant and effortless way of being. And for most of us, we have had this idea um, that is a very difficult thing to do, that awakening to the truth is very difficult, or that only a few beings actually make it in any generation. Whatever percentage that has been of those that want to wake up to the truth and those that actually do, that percentage has been traditionally quite low because of this belief. And it's something that really feels, to me, something important to challenge. Can it be that only a few beings wake up in any generation that want to? Is there a certain number of beings even on this satsang right now where only a few are going to get this and the rest, it's just tough luck. You have to wait till next time. And it's really not like that. The very fact that you're even here in satsang is evidence that awakening is already deeply, deeply beginning to manifest. And of course, it may not feel like that in our life. It may feel from day to day experience that we're failing in our awakening more than we're succeeding. And in my own awakening, it was very much that way. 99% of the time, I felt like a complete failure, like I was getting nowhere, going backwards even in my own awakening, going further into the mind and all of that stuff. So I really wanted to look at what the process of awakening is. Like, how do we awaken to the truth? And what does that mean for us? What changes are we going to have to make in our life for awakening to deepen to a point where we're living in constant and effortless peace? No matter what emotion arises in the body, no matter what the mind is doing or saying, no matter whether the body's in vibrant health or struggling with some disease or illness, still there is constant, effortless peace, no matter what happens. Doesn't mean there aren't any negative emotions, but those will be less and less as we go along. So when we get right down to it, what is awakening? It's to see that you're not who you thought you were, that you're not someone moving about your life and trying to reach some end goal, awakening, whatever that means to each of us. When I first found myself seeking self-realization, enlightenment, awakening, I didn't even know what that was. I don't know if you've ever found yourself in that position of trying to grasp something that you don't know what it is even. I just knew that I had to have it somehow. And at the same time, I felt terribly ashamed for even wanting it, because quite clearly my mind said there's no way it's ever going to happen to, someone like me. So it's what I really wanted to address in this time that we have here tonight before we open it up for questions, can you fail at this? Not really, no. You can hold it in a holding pattern. Have you ever taken one of those flights where you really just want to land, right? It's been a long flight on the airplane and you just really want to get on the ground and you're just almost over the airport. And then you get this announcement that says, we're really sorry there's a queue and we're going to have to circle around for a while. Awakening can be like that, right? You're almost at your destination and you come into that point where you really want to just land in that truth, and yet you're circling around feeling like you're absolutely going nowhere. So, what is it then that's going to allow us to? I'm going to use this metaphor as far as I can and go all the way.
We lost you, Helen, for a bit there. We couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. Some gremlins going on tonight. Um, what is it that's going to allow you to actually apply what you're seeing in your awakening? And that is really just one thing, to be able to come to live as this. That is a willingness to give up all of your thoughts. Awakening is going to cost you everything that you believe to be true. When I first heard that, I can't remember where it was, but it was really something that really shocked me. There was no way that I would ever be willing to give up all of my thoughts. And even if I, for a moment, touched that willingness, okay, I'm willing to do that. Just for a moment, it would arise every now and again. Like, is it even safe to do that? Can I actually live without thoughts? And then even if I had figured that one out, like, what if I don't even know how to do that? How do I actually do that? Why does awakening then cost you everything you think to be true? Well, awakening is really when it becomes a lived and constant experience, a state of not knowing anything. And most of all, forgetting the one who thinks it knows everything. So the one who is trying to get out of illusion is the illusion.
Sorry, Helen, we lost you again. What did you say?
Can you hear me now? Thumbs up? Yeah, okay. Wonderful. The one who believes in illusion is the illusion. Thank you. Hopefully we'll have a stable internet connection for this. So most of us spend all our lives trying to, seeking lives at least, trying to reach awakening, trying to get rid of illusion. What if we just got rid of that one that is trying to get rid of illusion? What if we just saw that that one isn't true? The seeker, the someone who believes all these thoughts, apparently, these beliefs, these karmic patterns, that one is not true. That one is the illusionary self, the separate sense of self. So when you see that um, all of your thoughts that you believe to be true, which you're going to have to give up at some point, are all hanging on this sense of a separate self. It's much easier just to see that that one isn't real. Because trying to give up everything you believe, it is an endless task because there'll be new thoughts coming in for you to believe as you let go of the old ones. And as you come to recognize, as you move deeper into your awakening, that, and maybe you're already seeing this, maybe you're already beginning to realize this, that everything that you believe to be true is dependent upon this one idea, this one thought that you are a person or an object, a someone, a seeker, then this becomes the ultimate shortcut. Are you willing to give that thought up? And of course, most of us here would say,
Lost you again, Helen.
okay, let me just pause for one moment to see what I can do here. Hang on. Okay, let's try that again. Let's see what happens. Can everyone hear me now? Oh, good. Fingers crossed. So, where were we? We were hopefully willing to give up the separate sense of self. And as willing as we might be in that moment when we're really suffering, how willing are we then later when we're not, when that initial heaviness of an emotion has passed, how willing are we then at that point to give up this idea? And so this willingness has to develop to a point of intensity. We could call it desire or willingness to be wrong about who we think we are. And this willingness has to become so intense that even in those moments where it might even be painful or pleasurable to keep thinking thoughts of a separate being, that we actually are willing, even in those moments. You know, when someone says something nice about you and you get the swell of confidence and, you know, you feel a little, your ego gets a little inflation. Are we willing in those moments? Or the opposite, when someone says something negative about you and you feel this sting of and this surge of emotion raging through the system, when it would be much easier to be outraged or upset or whatever that thing is that happens when that happens, the trigger, whatever that trigger is inside, are you willing to give those thoughts up then? And for me, honestly, in those times, the answer was no. For a long time, I really want to be angry, right? I really want to be um, complimented. I really want to be right. You know, those moments. I'm sure none of you have actually had any of those moments, so maybe just me, you know, where you know that you're right. You really know that you're right, and you're really not willing to even entertain the possibility that you might be wrong. Or even worse, when you know you're right, but you can feel that the other person is kind of destroyed in that, right? That their self-esteem is crumbling right in front of you because they're realizing that they're actually wrong. And somewhere, the first time that this happened to me, inside this thing arose that was really surprising, this willingness to let go of this uh, argument I was having at the time. Something inside arose that said, you know, would I rather be peaceful or right? And it was very clear in that moment that it was one or the other. I could be right and kind of, you know, puffed up for a little while, but I certainly won't be peaceful because I knew what the other person was feeling. And I'm not talking about being someone who um, you know, just lets go of any conversation or argument and becomes like a doormat that everyone can walk over, who's just doesn't have any opinion. I'm talking about making a conscious choice from a place of love that, you know, what we're arguing about here really does not matter. And this is when we know that this willingness has really reached a deep place inside, a really deep place inside, where the truth is more important than some momentary buzz in our brain that makes us feel like a someone, where we get to feel right for a short time at someone else's expense. And how do we get to that point of willingness then? Just simply to want to. You know, if you really look at any human conversations, you'll see that most of them, when we believe we're separate beings at least, are really not really a conversation. They're a bargaining tool where each person is trying to get energy from the other being, either by getting their agreement or approval, or by being right where they're wrong, making the other person wrong. And after a while, there's a point where you really just do not want that anymore. And even in our most unspiritual moments, you know, where we really would like to be able to give up this need to be right. And we actually can't manage it in that moment. We're still holding on to this and telling the other person how wrong they are. Even those moments serve our awakening because inside something is experiencing this again and saying, I really don't like this anymore. Something inside me likes it, right? You can feel your ego gets a little boost, a little uplift. But then you know what's going to happen right after that, right? It was going to get the opposite. So a deflation. So by the time you're willing to let go of any thought, to not hold on to anything, to live without thoughts, doesn't mean that the mind is completely silent. Perhaps it won't be for a long time. But there's a willingness to not make them the main event. You're willing to actually show up and be present in your life as the presence rather than as the one being, rather than as someone who's driven around by thoughts all the time. By the time you're willing to let them go, paradoxically, you really don't need to. By the time thoughts are um, really no big deal, that's when the mind starts to fall silent anyway. So, if all of this is about, because we can have an infinite number of seeings of who we really are and still not be living that awakening. And I did that for a very long time. I was very spiritual in my meditation. If you ever met one of those people who's very spiritual, that was me for a long time. And very, very annoying, I'm sure, to be around other people, for them, not me. Who's very good at meditating, very good at being peaceful. Then I had this whole other side of my life where I was really being quite inauthentic in those moments. And this gap had to close, this willingness had to come. And it came to give up all thoughts, to be willing to give up all thoughts. You don't actually have to do it. You don't actually have to let go of anything. It's the willingness that does that for you. Have you ever had a moment where you've chosen peace over some other emotion? It doesn't mean that emotion's disappeared. Maybe you're still angry or feeling ashamed. But peace is an option there as well. Instead of going with the old thoughts, you feel that surge of energy. The same old thought, the same old emotion, the same old situation that triggered it. Simply asking in that moment, what else can I experience right now rather than this? It's not pushing that thing away. It's just widening your horizon. What else is there that I could take in this moment? And from there, we can begin to notice that there's many more things to experience. Usually we only focus on the surface level of our being. What's going on the surface, on the waves? What's the agitation that's going on? And there's a whole ocean of peace and stillness underneath that if we will choose something else, if we will ask even, what else is available in this moment? Peace is always an option. It might take a little while longer for joy and love to be an option all the time, but peace is always available right from the start. Even now, even now as you're listening, if there's some emotion surging or some sense of confusion because you're not sure how to do what I'm talking about, just noticing that confusion and asking, what else is there that I can experience in this moment? You're just not making that confusion or that anger the main and only thing you're focusing on. Okay, so there's confusion. What else is here? And softly, softly leaning into opening up in those moments. And once you start to get a taste of this peace, you'll want to have it more and more. And then the willingness gets even stronger in that moment to not hold the thought or the emotion so tightly. No awakened being has ever managed to silence their mind at all. That's not the goal here, right? It's just the willingness to let this, uh, we let the choice for peace become the habit. When you know that peace is always available and you begin to experience that, you lose all fear of the mind. Because whatever it's saying, it's happening inside the peace, which cushions you from everything that's going on in life. So, do you have this willingness? If I could ask each one of you one on one right now, I'm not going to, don't worry, but if I could ask you, do you have this total willingness to give up thoughts? I should expect that most people would say, no, I don't have it yet. But is that true? Why are you here in the satsang if it's not true? And do you need to judge yourself by the worst moments you have? Can you not evaluate how willing you are to move into peace by the fact that you showed up here tonight instead? And the fact that you're trying, or even that you're willing to be willing. There's our favorite set of thoughts, right? There's the ones that we want to get rid of straight away. We'll call that bundle A, the thoughts that we really don't like. Those will go straight away. And then there's a small bundle B, which is, neutral thoughts that really are just kind of functional thoughts about, going to work and which way to go and all that stuff. And then there's the thoughts C that we really do like, the ones that you really do like. I really think I'm getting somewhere now in my awakening. I'm starting to feel more worthy. I'm really um, beginning to feel more peace. And, I'm forgiving myself more. The thoughts that we really like, or those conversations that your mind does in your own head where it reruns through a compliment you were given by somebody and you get that kind of buzz inside again. What if every human being had to go through this journey of, okay, I'll easily let go of A, B don't really bother me anyway, so I can let go of them. C, these are the thoughts that I'm really going to have to um, build my willingness to let go of. You know what's really in this final bundle of thoughts, though? The ones we will not give up? Usually it's really, really negative thoughts about ourselves. I'm not getting anywhere. There's no way this is ever gonna work for me. I don't even know why I decided to come to Satsang. I'm not gonna get anywhere. Awakening's never gonna happen in this lifetime. These kind of thoughts. What that person said about me is true. I'm never gonna get any better at this thing. I should have more compassion. These kind of thoughts. These are the ones, isn't it weird that these are the ones we will not give up? Have you ever looked at the thoughts that you hold on to most? I was really surprised when I looked at this myself. They were all pretty much critical, judgmental thoughts about myself. Why is it we want to hold on to those? Have you ever asked yourself that question? I mean, they don't even feel good. They're very familiar. But if someone knocked on your door and said these things that are going on inside your head to you about you, how long would you stand there and listen? So developing the willingness to even to let these ones go. Do you need to hold on to them anyway? Are they actually helping you? So I don't wanted to bring this forward here in this time because when I first heard this, it's going to cost you everything you believe to be true. Awakening, enlightenment is going to cost you everything you think you know. First, that was a very expensive price that I was unwilling to pay. But somehow, some way that completely changed. Somehow it changed into I am willing. And again, just checking your own willingness and seeing if it might be true that you're already willing. If you listen to your mind, it's going to tell you that you're nowhere near ready yet. How true is that? So hopefully we have sorted out the technical issues. Fingers crossed. I want to open it up for questions, but I want to do it a different way tonight. I'm just going to ask anybody that wants to ask a question to put their hands up, and I'm just going to select some people at random, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so we'll go with Hottie.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, dear Helen. Um, I will just start talking because I do not really have clear thoughts on what I want to express. It feels as if I am more and more ready to let the person Hoti um, go more this way
Mm.
and uh, yeah, be in the spacious stillness. And I feel a longing for that. Um, but I'm also in a relationship and I have a husband that he has a very busy life and a lot of stories and a lot of things going on. And my life is much more quiet and still, and it gets even more quieter and more still. Um, and I think part of me, maybe from the Hottie personality, is maybe a bit afraid how my relationship will develop
Mm.
um, with our differences. And maybe you can elaborate on that and help me a little bit. Yeah, just to trust and let go.
Maybe you can't actually even trust. Maybe this might unfold that you still can't really trust that everything's going to be okay as you deepen into this. For me, I had this idea that at some point I would trust that as I let go of thoughts, it would all be okay, that I would um, know that my relationships would deepen as I became more quieter inside. Everything would get better. But it really wasn't like that. Actually, it was seeing that as thoughts were let go of, things got better in my life. And then the trust came. And if you
Mm.
look at what's kind of stressing you out at the moment, it's probably because we know that this awakening is inevitable. It's happening, it's deepening. And so at some point, you're going to be really in this relationship with whatever's going on for both of you in a day-to-day way, with very little thought going on about it. Mind says that's a bad thing. But do we really know that? Can mind ever really trust ahead of time that this awakening is going to enhance your relationships rather than detract from them, make them worse? So, can you feel that there's some part of you that doesn't trust and that there's some part of you that already does? And you don't have to make that part that doesn't trust get with the program, right? It's just never gonna do that.
Yeah,
Can
it's
you,
just there,
yeah, can
but
you
I
just
don't
let
have
it,
to believe it or.
yeah, it's just how the mind is, right? How the egoic sense of self is. It's not really going to, it'll always be pleasantly surprised that things worked out, rather than there's something inside also, the real self, that somehow knows this is the right thing, and it's going to deepen that way. You know, it's like
Ah,
for me, it was like, can I learn to trust that money's going to come in when I need it? As awakening deepens and there's less and less thought going on about that. And the answer was no, actually. I really can't trust that. But still, it happened anyway, it started to open up. And my mind said, oh, it worked out. You know,
mm,
maybe it's always going to be like that in the mind. And just more sort of loving understanding about why the mind is always kind of freaking out about that. And remembering that we're only returning to our natural state, what we've always been. How bad can it get from there, right? If we're just being ourselves.
yeah, and it feels so free. And it touches me now hearing you speak those words, because I feel it. I can lovingly embrace something in me that is maybe a bit scared
Yeah,
how the relationship will develop. And overall, I really feel that my life is getting better and my relationship in a way is getting better as well.
yeah.
But it's not in the surface way.
A
It's
lot deeper.
it's
Mm.
it's on a deeper level. Yeah. Oh,
What is
thank you.
real self-talking? You said something like, I can embrace this more, that's freaking out inside. I can embrace it. So yeah, that's the real self-talking already. The mind wouldn't be saying that, right? It would be saying this thing should go away. It would be judging itself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I love you.
I love you too. So good to talk to you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. Well, we've got a few hands up. Let's go to Eliana when you're ready.
Hello. Hello, Helen. Can you hear me?
I can,
I
yeah.
can't, yeah.
Thank you. I'm so glad you opened up this conversation because I have to mention another resource that I've been studying for many, many years, and it's called The Art of the Spiritual Peacemaking. And in one of the passages I read this week, he said exactly what you are saying here tonight, which is sometimes it feels like you are making progress. Sometimes you will feel like you are not making progress at all. You are coming, you are stuck, or, you are not moving forward. And you may feel, a sense of despair or a sense that you are not at all making any progress.
Mm.
So your talk tonight really addresses this, because I have been thinking sometimes I just feel like, what is the point? What is the point of carrying on with all of this? Because nothing seems to be happening. There is no movement in the circumstances of my life. There is nothing happening on the outside, but I keep doing the work inwardly. So the other day I had an interesting experience as well. It was just like, it was very unusual. I never had that happen before. It was like the mind, and I wasn't particularly thinking about or doing anything unusual, just cooking or peeling vegetables. Just like the mind disappeared. And all it was this direct experience of the moment with no, it felt like the mind was a filter and wasn't there anymore. And that filter went, and I was, what is this?
Those moments when they happen, they really fuel that willingness, right, to let go. If they serve, they're beautiful to experience, but obviously they also build this real deep devotion and desire to let go of any belief. Whatever comes up next to look at, we'll look at, right? Because we had that anyway, but this just gives it an extra boost. Like, I want that back. I want that I just experienced. Yeah.
Well, that was a surprise. I was surprised because I recognize that it's totally possible to be, I don't know, without fear and without mind and without fear.
Yeah.
Without mind and without fear.
Same thing, really, mind and fear, aren't they, in a way?
Yes. So yes, and now of course there is that willingness now, I didn't feel like I wanted to have that back at the time, but I recognized that there was, this opening where it mind is okay being without mind, totally, and that was an opening that I didn't push, I didn't do anything particular, I wasn't expected, so it was just there. So
Because you were just peeling vegetables, chopping vegetables. That's why it came, right? Because we weren't pushing for anything, grasping in that moment so much. You were just doing a simple task. So it gives us a clue how to just relax into it, right?
mhm.
Or I'm so engrossed in what I'm doing. I'm just chopping, chopping, chopping. My attention is just in the chopping. There's a simplicity in that, where
Mm,
reality can just break through into your experience, even just for a moment.
absolutely, yeah, and it was that sense, there was no expectations, I wasn't complaining about anything, it was just like just getting on with what is right here in front of me, because sometimes I feel very disheartened and I just feel like I've been on this path for years, since I was 37 years old, and now I'm in my 70s, and I'm just, just think, oh, this will never change. I'm just gonna die like this. I think you know the drill, don't you? The
Oh yeah, I
mindset.
remember. Yeah, I remember those thoughts. Yeah.
So yeah, so now there is this, I feel so blessed that you opened up this space to have this conversation tonight, because I just feel like there is this beautiful, I don't know if I can use the word hope in my heart, that it's okay. Everything is going as it should be going, and everything is as it is. And I can relax about that.
Yeah. The end of
I
this is inevitable,
that.
right? It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Lots
you.
of love.
And to you too. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you. Okay, we will go to Frank.
Oops, sorry about that, Helen.
No worries.
So I was putting my phone up against another object and it fell. So anyway, I have a question around this idea that you often say to us, which is that you say that you love us too much to think about us. And I've really taken that to heart. I've been using that, not using that, but yeah, I guess kind of using that idea when I start worrying about people or having issues with people, whatever they are. And this came up for me today as my mom, who has dementia, she has been getting up in the morning. She has on her night table, she has a picture of her deceased parents. And she sometimes, and including this morning, she grabbed the picture and she was crying that she misses them. She doesn't know where they are. Where are they? And it's really, for me, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say to her, and I did say to her, I said, Mom, let's think about them with happiness instead of being sad, because they're not suffering. They don't have a body to deal with. They're in a good place. Let's look at them that way. But she was still crying and everything. And I was actually thinking about taking that, because she's done this before. So I was thinking about taking that picture away. But that's kind of heartbreaking too, to take my grandparents' picture away from my mom's night table and putting it someplace else, where she's not going to be, thinking about them, because this whole thinking is what gets us all in trouble, right? So just wondering what you think about this. Any ideas about this at all, or what do you think?
Could you be a little more specific in your question?
Yeah, I guess I'm looking for practical answers, and I know that's not what you do, but I'm wondering, should I take the picture away? Is there anything I can say to her where she doesn't have this reaction of being so heartbroken by her parents not being here, and how much she misses them? And
The best thing
it's almost like talking to a child, but even worse because she's 93.
the best thing you can do is not decide what to do, not know
Mm,
how to be,
mm,
not have a strategy. Like
yeah,
the mind is watching someone in distress and desperately trying to find a way to ease that distress by knowing what to do next time this thing happens, right?
yes.
Something
Hmm.
like that. And of course it would go there. Of course it would want to know how to handle this. But what if the best way is to not know?
Mm,
I'll do whatever I do in that moment. I'll say whatever I say in that moment. And in
yes.
that freedom of that, then is that the highest thing that can manifest, the highest words that can be spoken, the best thing can happen because it's not coming through thoughts, it's coming straight out of the silence of our being, the emptiness of our real self. And it might be that you do or say exact same things, but they might have a very different impact, be received very differently.
Mm,
And even if you say nothing, it's still going to be an impact. There's going to be some peace there that can be picked up at least at some point by your mum, to help her in that moment when she's agitated. Um,
great.
so anything you decide anyway is coming from the sense of separation.
Mm,
And you really can, even in situations like this, walk around without a strategy, especially in situations like this, right?
mm. I love it.
Of course, if there's physical things that need to be done to ensure safety, of course,
Hmm.
those. But in here, right, no strategy going on.
Beautiful.
Nothing, something in the mind won't like that because it doesn't like to feel uncomfortable. When you're watching someone suffer, there's an uncomfortableness that arises in yourself, right? And
Yeah.
mine says if you know what to do, that feeling won't arise, but it's not true. You're going to have that feeling whether you have a strategy or not. At least you'll have peace
Mhm.
and this uncomfortableness in that moment then, and something different can manifest.
Great. That's really, really nice to hear.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Helen.
Thank you for sharing. Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll go to Lee. Lee, when you're ready. Yep.
Hiya.
Hi.
Yeah, so my current question is basically revolved around diet. And so it's based upon like a recent encounter when I was in nature. So basically, I've always predominantly ate meat and typically I love meat. But I've always like had a general like fondness of animals. And I was in nature recently and there was some deer, but they seem to like really the vast majority of the time that I've been around them, they normally just flee quickly. But this recent encounter, they seem to like kind of stay with me, and I was like with them maybe like 5 or 10 minutes, and it was almost like they were like staring into my soul. Um, but ever since this encounter, for some reason, when like meat was on my plate, it seemed to turn my stomach, and it's something seems to have happened since this encounter that's raised like a lot of questions in terms of like morals and ethics or like what I deem good and bad or high and low vibration. And I guess like from the sense of the real self, like there is no separation, but at the same time, I just felt like I couldn't take this animal's life.
Mhm.
But, but that's from the perspective of the the egoic self, like this
Is it?
person, the person,
Is it?
possibly.
Or is it coming from the real self? Was it a long, thought out, deliberate thought process? Or was it just an instinctive feeling?
It was an instinctive feeling, but at the same time, I think it's been a process that's been evolving like over time for years.
Yeah.
Um,
You
yeah,
know, and it's okay, of course, to ask for some guidance and clarity like this, but if you're really honest with yourself right now, you know where this is coming from, right? Somewhere inside that is deeper than the mind. It doesn't mean we all suddenly have to become vegetarians, it's not like that. It's just this is what's happening for you right now and what feels instinctively right for you at this point in your journey. And it's not coming from some I really should do this or I really should stop
yeah,
doing this. It's something different, isn't it? You can feel it.
yeah. And in a sense, I was just all of a sudden like I was repulsed by meat all of a sudden, and I just couldn't. Um, not necessarily like physically eat it, but I just really didn't want to
Mhm.
eat it. But I guess a part of my question was like, is there a good and bad? Is there a right and wrong? And I guess like if I went deeper on this, if from the real self there is no separation, is like taking another animal's life and eating it almost like doing that to yourself. I don't know if that's too thinking too
It is
deep.
in a way, right? And that's maybe why it's deepening. How could you want to harm anything? A plant, a rock, or an animal, or
Mm,
another human being as you start to see who you really are. Um, and that brings about its effects in our life in various different ways. But it is something that is becomes really impossible. The urge to harm any creature at all is going to disappear inside you because,
mm,
like you said, there's a deep knowingness somewhere that this is you, and whatever that means for each of us is going to show up in different ways. This is how it's showing up for you right now. And also the body has its own natural intelligence. It will tell you what it wants and what it
mm.
doesn't want.
Yeah, well, I think this is the other question that has arisen lately. So, like there's a lot of like fad diets and people speak like keto and carnivore and whatever, but I think I decided to eventually block out the noise and really tune into what I was feeling. And the more I started to tune into that, it, it actually turned out to be like the complete opposite of what everyone was
Mhm.
telling me was right and wrong. So yeah, that's where
I
I'm
did
at.
some crazy things sometimes, like we just go to the supermarket and just stand there and go, what do I want to eat? I just watch what my body would pick up off the shelf. And it was kind of a crazy way to shop, but it was really uh, liberating in a way, just not coming from any ideas in that way. And you
Hmm.
try it, try it for a little while if it
Yeah.
see what your body does. It'd be quite interesting.
Yeah.
And it'll just walk around and pick up everything it wants and then go back home again. That was weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Really, though, this is about you honoring your own instinctive guidance, isn't it?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And I would say that lately my body has, in a sense, been telling me what it needs and what it wants right at this time. And I'm not saying that possibly in the future I wouldn't eat meat at all or etc. etc. I'm just going for what my body and self is currently just telling me that it wants to do right now.
And that's the awakened way, right?
In this moment, that just feels like right.
That's the awakened way. Like, this is what I want to eat right now.
Yeah.
We're not labeling anything, I'm not suddenly adopting this diet or that diet. We've done all that crazy stuff. You know,
Yeah.
um, just this is what's happening right now. This is what the body wants right now, and it's totally, totally perfect.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
thank you. Okay, we'll go for two more. Let's see. Isabel.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Thank you very much to your what you say, and it's very interesting. I when you were talking before uh, about the mind and the ideas and all of that, I begin to be very scared about the idea of losing all of this. I think I have the conscious. I can see that my thoughts are maintaining something that is false.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is not in my mind, but at the same time, I'm very scared about losing all of that, all the thoughts, and
What does the fear say? What does fear say is so bad about losing your mind?
I
It's
think
just-
it's in that I'm losing my life, in my family, my job, everything I know. I'm scared about losing all of this.
Yeah. And I'm asking this because this came up for me in a big way, and I had to really look at this like you're doing now. Let's just explore. Is it true that if I stop thinking about things, I'll lose? Is it going to be worse without thoughts? Let's just
I,
really take a moment and ask this question together and see what happens. Do I really know for certain that it's going to be worse rather than
I
better?
don't think so, because now I have a lot of problems, stress, and so on because of my mind that it's not working great. So I think I want to lose that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, like we were saying a little while ago, there's a part of us that is already free of the mind, and there's a part of us that doesn't want to let go of mind, that is the mind, right? The mind doesn't want to let go of itself because it believes that it is you, and if it stops thinking, it thinks you'll disappear, cease to exist. And that was terrifying for me.
Hmm.
Till I started to realize actually there's two versions of me here in this moment, one which is already free from the mind, the stillness, the silence, the quietness,
Hmm.
and one that is the mind that really thinks it is me and it talks as me and it really is really quite terrified most times. And do you have to get rid of that part? Can you allow something to be a little freaked out or a lot freaked out about this? And at the same time, coming ever more clearly to recognize that stillness, the silence, the consciousness that has never relied on the mind. It can use the mind, but it exists independently of anything else, right? If you tune in right now and recognize that consciousness that's here, the silence, the stillness, whatever you want to call it, awareness, does it need anything to exist? Can it cease to exist?
Hmm.
It's been here and it's not been dependent on anything. And it can use the mind. But if we realize that that which is scared of letting go of thoughts is thoughts, and it may be the consciousness, the silence doesn't even have to let go in this way, right? This idea that I've got to somehow, this is why I said that we've only got to get to the willingness to let go. We don't actually have to do it. The willingness to let go is just the consciousness that's, you know what, I'm kind of getting a little bored now of experiencing through thoughts. I want to experience myself consciously. So I never managed to resolve this thing that was terrified about letting go. It might still be there now somewhere inside, I don't know. But it was just clearer and clearer that this really isn't much to do with me. I don't have to sort that out. And there was a lot more kindness and compassion for the mind because it couldn't see that it isn't me. It's just a group of thoughts, right? And it thinks it's me and it's doing its best to protect me. And it really thinks it's not a good idea to stop thinking. But the consciousness has never thought anything. It's already free. You feel just a little relaxation in that, a little gap opening, just maybe I don't have to fix this huge problem of how do I stop being so scared here.
Very tense. Yeah.
Most times when I hit a big wall in my awakening, it's because I was trying to do something that I didn't even need to. And here, this is one of those things, right?
Mhm.
I'm trying to work up the courage to let go of the mind. Well, I don't even have to do that, actually.
Mhm.
I just have to be willing to.
Okay. I have once the experience of letting the mind, and it was like a emptiness, and it was so emptiness that I have to go again to the mind because I was really, really scared
Yeah.
about nothing.
I was too the first time I experienced myself like that. I was scared too.
Mm.
But something couldn't help but go back again, do a little more self-inquiry. The mind saying, "What are you doing? This is crazy. Don't do it again." Right? You have to. I have to. Gradually, it just became normal and obvious that this is who I already am. So, and have always been. So it might seem different, but it's only because we're only just noticing it now.
Mm. I think the way you are teaching and to do some small things all days helps mind to to get used to the idea. I think.
Yeah, mind eventually comes to see, look, the consciousness has been here all the time. If it wanted to annihilate me, the mind,
Mhm.
if the consciousness wanted to wipe out the mind realizes it could have done it at any time.
Yeah.
Finally, it realizes actually consciousness is not capable of annihilating anything. It's the one thing it can't do.
Mhm. Okay.
If mind's not there yet, it's okay, right? You just
Mhm.
let it do its journey.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you. Okay, we'll finish with Paul. When you're ready, there we go.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So, well, this is a personal question. I don't know if it's going to work for the rest, but anyway. So I study theater, all right, and I'm trying to develop my career in this path. And I think there are some contradictions about what you are proposing. Um, one of the things you said is start changing the habit of identifying with the mind and with the thoughts and start identifying with the
The consciousness.
self,
Yeah.
consciousness, yeah, the silence. And I could feel that actually after the retirement, not the retreat,
Yeah.
yeah, not yet there. Uh, we made 2 weeks ago. And so I feel like as an actor, I have to identify with some words, with some thoughts, with some character, with the ego, right? And this makes my body, mind shape. Like, I mean, my emotions uh, come back to me. So, mm, well, for starters, I see this maybe it's not same path. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Let's look at
This
those.
for one side of the question. Yeah, okay.
when you're
Yeah, and the other
really
side
in the
is
flow,
sorry.
when you're acting, right? When you're really in the flow of it. Like
Hmm.
just going back to a moment where you were really in the zone and you were like, wow, I'm on fire right now. Yeah. Were you thinking about it or were you just doing it?
No, actually, I felt pretty much peace those moments. I think that's why I
And you've
danced.
probably had the opposite experience where you were really trying to think about how to get into a certain role or character, and you just couldn't quite do it, right? You were really, your mind was really confused and you couldn't quite um,
Yeah,
get there, right? It didn't
it's
flow.
yeah, and it hurts very much. I suffer a lot, yeah, when this happens.
And when we look at any area of our life that we really enjoy doing, that could be anything at all. We were just talking with Eliana about chopping vegetables. We were just really in the moment. We were the moment. There was no thought process going on. If you look at all the times your acting has gone very, very well, it will be the same thing. There was no mind there.
But
After,
you actually have to think, sorry, sir, but you actually have to put the thought in your mind. Let's say in an, well, you,
you can read the words off a script without really thinking about it, right?
yeah, but when you, okay, so in cinema, you have the literal text, and then you have the subsequent text that's going underneath, like it's the thought. That's what you are actually expressing through your eyes and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the same, but inside. Well,
But does that have to involve a separate being who's thinking their way through the process? Is
no,
that
no. So,
rather that you take in, and it's a good question, right? Something to explore for yourself. You take in the stimuli that's telling you about the role, you take it in, and then you see what pours out from that. Like right now, are you even thinking about what to say next?
no.
And I think this conversation is going pretty well, right? Because I'm not thinking about what to say next either. Neither of us are, right? So just really
Yeah,
to
that's right.
question, do I actually have to have a thought process going on? There's all for all of us, there's areas of our life where we're sure that we do need to. For me, it was being a parent. I really do need to think in this area of my life. And I was really quite amazed to find out that that wasn't true. And whenever it was flowing, just like we were saying, going really well, there were no thoughts there. And whenever it wasn't going well, there were plenty of thoughts there.
It's a tricky question, I think.
And I'm not asking you or expecting you to come to a total willingness right now, but just playing with this question a little bit, right? Because the assumption is that I do really need to think here. But what if that isn't true? What if the best performances of your life are going to come straight out of this empty silence that wants to move in such a dynamic, passionate way that's going to bring tears to people's eyes or laughter or smiles or whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean that's true. No, that's actually the main purpose of any actors that really loves the profession and knows
Yeah.
what it is, right? To be truthful, to be authentic in one way.
I think you just answered your own question there.
Yeah, but so, I mean, because the matter we are working with, it's not just thought, it's thoughts. It's like it's more than words. It's like the sound repeating on your mind, and
Yeah.
you have to memorize that.
Yeah.
So it suddenly comes.
But memory can function without having a person there, without it being a thought process. So you memorize the words and then you go back into that emptiness and the words come back when you need them. And the feeling and the sound, right? It's coming straight out of that emptiness. It's coming straight from that place. You know in
That's
your
really
heart, right, that
so,
the best acting you've ever done has come from that place that's deeper than mind. It's come from that place that is passionate and open and has no inhibitions, right? And just exploring it, bit by bit, that we come to a willingness to realize, actually, even here, I don't need to think. Even here, I don't need to hold together a separate sense of self.
so it's like remembering everything, and then when the thing starts, I just forget everything and let the thing go. That's the
Yeah,
main
and
idea.
if you look at that's what's happening anyway, right? Mind in between, in between the actual events starting, mind will be going, this is what I need to do. This is what I'll do this. And it's coming up with a strategy, but none of that
Yeah,
strategy
you're
actually
right.
happens when you start, right? The strategies all go out of the window. And that's how
Yeah.
it's always been. Nothing's changing over here, right? You're just kind of realizing what's always been true.
It's challenging though. I think I would be much better to just cut vegetables, like you said. So vegetables sounds more
But that wouldn't
meditating.
fire your heart, right? That wouldn't fire your heart.
Who knows?
The first time, well, maybe. The first year actually, I did satsang like this. I had a list of things next to me here that I could talk about in case I couldn't think of anything. And what to do if nobody asked me a question, because there was like two people on the satsang at that point, and all kind of strategies of how to, once we actually started, all that just fell away, right? And just like now, like there's no strategy with it. Whatever comes from there is the deepest thing, the most passionate thing. Whatever we love to do is coming from the spontaneity of the real self anyway. It's not really coming through the mind structure, or else it would be some very watered down version of what we're capable of, very diminished version of it.
Can I thank you? I think you helped me a lot with this. Also, I had that second side of the question. Can I continue? Is that okay?
Okay.
So I also heard you say that eventually, in your process of awakening, start identifying more with what it is. Eventually, you couldn't even grab like conflict, um, like sort of strong emotions, let's say, like anger, frightening, or some that you couldn't even grab. So again, with the actor career, if I cannot embody this, how can I perform?
Grabbing and trying to push away or hold on to something is coming from a separate self. Embodying something, playing a role is coming from what is real, right? There's a difference between those. In that moment in your own life when something triggers you and there's a strong impulse to push that emotion away, we don't want to feel it. That's what you lose. You lose the capacity to push it away, to resist it. Instead, there's just this ability to feel it and to be with it in its intensity. And surely that's exactly what you're talking about here, right? I'm going to be with this feeling and allow it to flower, whatever it turns into, to blossom into, whatever it wants to be. All you're going to lose is the capacity to be inauthentic at any time. And it seems to me that would suit your work very well. The capacity to be authentic all the time, right?
Yes,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will leave it there for this evening. Thank you all for your questions and get through as many as we could. And once again, apologies for the technical issues at the beginning, but glad we got it sorted out. So thank you all. Namaste.